This is clearly a prison, but the prisoners are very excited. Because just now, a new group of prisoners was sent to the prison. As the prisoners got off one by one, the screams of the old birds were louder. The reason is that in these boring days, you can have some fun and look at the little birds in front of you. Black has already started gambling with the prisoners. Because the newcomers come to the prison, the first night is the most difficult. So the old rule is, whoever gambles tonight will cry first. After the others have finished choosing, Black took a fancy to the tall man in the team, and put 10 smokes on him. Then everyone lined up one by one. Just because one of the people said the wrong words, he was beaten by the prison chief. Through this, it can also show the method of the prison chief. However, the one who is worse than him is the warden. His name is Norton, a typical medical beast. Obviously, he is a good-looking man. But he said that he would give his faith to God, and he would give his life to him. That arrogant look, even the 80-year-old grandma of Xiaoming wanted to give him the night light. Then everyone washed his body with water, and then sprayed the disinfectant of Nanwen. Because this is a prisoner's prison, the process before entering the prison must be experienced. Late at night, the old birds began to excite. Fatty couldn't stand it in the end, and he started to cry. The noise quickly attracted the prison guards. But at this time, Fatty's mentality was obviously broken. In the end, he was beaten by the prison chief mercilessly. He fell asleep on the spot. On the other hand, the man who was scared by Black didn't make a sound all night. This made Black very surprised. Because he always sees people very accurately, he basically never lost this kind of bet. So through inquiring, he learned the reason why the man was in prison. The man's name is Andy. He is a vice president of a bank. He went home and ran into his wife on a date with his ex-wife. Angry, he wanted to get drunk and kill 2 people. This is the 10th year since he came to Shawshank. It is also because of this long prison life, through his own ability, he became the Wan Shirtong of this prison. He can get things that others can't get, such as cigarettes or tobacco. Although Andy lost the bet this time, he has a deeper impression of Andy. The next day at dinner, Andy found a spicy strip in the meal, and was fed by the old man of the library. This was also the first time Andy met the old man. After that, everyone discussed about winning or losing. After inquiring, the fat man hated the Northwest last night. The doctor didn't care. The corpse will be used until dawn. Faced with this life-threatening Shenku, everyone fell into silence. After dinner, Andy fell in love with Andy. Wanting to be Andy's friend, Andy ignored him. This also aroused Andy's Indus hammer, and then let the old man give the hammer to Andy with confidence. It was this thing that made the so-called classic Canton Bridge. However, although Andy was careful everywhere, he still couldn't escape the devil's claws. Faced with the violence of the 3 sisters, Andy soon lost his mind. It was this thing that made the so-called classic Canton Bridge. However, although Andy was careful everywhere, he still but was almost pushed down the building. Later, Andy said he only needed a piece of paper, a pen, and there was a way to legally and reasonably avoid taxes. He didn't have to pay a penny. As a reward, each of the prisoners here had 2 bottles of cold beer. The day before this was completed, these 12 people were sitting on the roof, surrounded by cold beer, still the most ruthless prison officer ever. This scene was also recorded in everyone's mind for a short time. At that moment, it was like going back to your own roof, free and casual. Although the prisoners thought Andy was flattering, Reed knew this was Andy helping everyone find their freedom. Even for a few minutes, Andy found Reed in the movie theater and said he wanted a poster. Reed didn't even think about it and agreed. In the backstage of the movie theater, Andy was caught by the 3 sisters again. This time, in order to implement the indescribable scene, Whitehair was also locked up for a week. At this time, Andy again. Whitehair couldn't stand up and walk again, and had to rely on a straw to eat. A month later, on the day Andy was discharged from the hospital, on the bed, there was a stone that Reed had already helped find, and more importantly, there was a poster. The next day, a routine checkup was carried out. Norton George checked Andy's room. He said it was a checkup just to find out Andy's whereabouts. On the other hand, all the people in the old Department were envious of the chance to get out of the prison, but suddenly they wanted to make a big trouble. Reed understood that the old department had been in prison for 50 years and had completely decoupled from this world. To put it bluntly, it was systematized. Just like the prison Reed mentioned. At first you hated him, then you got used to him. In the end, you can't live without him. As expected, the old department committed suicide a month after being released from the prison. Even when he was busy, Reed would be transferred to be an assistant. Although he was so busy that he couldn't work, Reed was happy inside. On the other hand, all the people in the old department, just like the prison Reed mentioned. At first you hated him, then you got used to him. In the end, you can't live without him. As expected, the old department committed suicide a month after being released from the prison. He decided to write 2 letters a week. He also found a black tape in the miscellaneous goods. When the guards went to the bathroom, he sneaked into the radio station and locked his door. Then he opened the tape. The whole Shawshank prison was broadcast through the radio. All the prisoners listened carefully. They had forgotten that there was such a beautiful music in the world. It's as if a new life was reborn at this moment. Nothing can stop my yearning for freedom. The sky lifts the clouds of the starry sky. Your heart needs to worry. You need to go through the dark years. Norton was furious and warned Andy madly. But Andy didn't open the door on purpose. He even turned up the volume. At this moment, the light in his eyes was so bright. Of course. The result was to be imprisoned for 2 weeks. But he didn't regret it. He told the audience that there are some things in the world that can't be forced. In people's hearts, there are things that they can't control and belong to themselves completely. That is hope. After that, Andy received a reply. The state government saw that 200 yuan could not be paid to Andy. They decided to increase it to 500 yuan every year. In this way, Andy transformed an abandoned house into a prison library. This place also became the most popular place for prisoners to relax. Another year, the warden made a lie to serve the community and moved the prisoners to the city appropriately. In this way, he gained extraordinary violence. And behind every bear, a new. After that, Andy also accepted him as a student and began to teach him to read and write. But during the exam, Shanmu testify, he can definitely be re-elected. So he found the warden and applied for a re-recovery. But obviously, the warden needed Andy now and didn't want him to leave. So they had a quarrel. Sir, I solitary, a month. Yes, sir. Huh. What's the matter? But Norton, in the end, he shamelessly asked Andy to continue to work for him. The price he refused was even more serious than the Three Sisters invasion. He even burned the library that Andy personally created. Will Andy figure it out at this moment? Anyway, people only have 2 choices. Live or die. He secretly told Reed that if you go out one day, you must go to Houston. There is a black stone, then bury what I left for you below. Facing the firmness in Andy's eyes, Reed couldn't figure it out. After that, he told this situation to Yuyo. Facing such Andy, everyone felt strange. When he heard the sound of the stone hitting the stone hole, he immediately tore the poster apart. At this moment, everyone was completely shocked. That's right. Andy successfully escaped. Yujing searched around for 3 days and 3 nights, but only found a small hammer and an old uniform. Reed once said it would take at least 800 years to dig the ground with this hammer. But he missed a point. Andy also has a lot of research. He analyzed the structure of the prison wall and it is not indestructible. As long as there is enough time and endurance to escape, it is not difficult. The difficulty is whether there is such an execution. During the past 20 years, every night was covered with posters and moved little by little. He took the soil out during the day and sprinkled it on the playground outside. Day after day, year after year, on the day of the prison break, he put the evidence of the warden's crime in a plastic bag and then dug into the hole and climbed into the prison's exhaust pipe and used the sound of thunder as a cover. He successfully smashed the pipe and endured the bad smell and climbed in a pipe for more than 300 years before reaching the exhaust exit. When he came out, his life was finally free. He took off his prisoner's uniform and opened his arms to the sky and put on a flying jewelry. He waited for 20 years for this day. The next day, Andy walked into the bank in Norton's suit and leather shoes and replaced the man named Xian Duo who bought the money he took the millions in his account and handed Norton's criminal evidence to the bank. Soon, the police car rushed to the prison of Shawshank. Norton knew that he was innocent and decided to commit suicide. Not long after, Reed received an email from a strange city. Through the content in his heart, he looked at the map again and found that it was a border line. He showed an admirable smile. He knew that this must have been sent by Andy. This also means that Andy has been released. Some birds are destined not to be locked in a cage. He was assigned a job like his father. All his experiences were thing he didn't do. So, next to the old letter, he engraved the words that Reed had been here before. When Reed came to the big tree that Andy told him, he found a piece of money and a letter. Reed followed the address on the letter to find Andy. He traveled thousands of miles to find. I hope you can regain your freedom. Without any explanation, you can replace the original film. I'm TD. I look forward to meeting you next time.